Well, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to Legacy Lessons. I'm your host, Jack Campbell, and I'm so excited to be here tonight. I will tell you, today we have such a dynamic conversation with two incredible individuals who represent some incredible work. But before we get started, I've got a quick video to show you that will highlight a little bit of their work. Let's kick it off with video number one.
Inclusion Forward is Experian's commitment to our community, to really driving towards racial equity and ensuring that individuals from underserved communities have an opportunity to gain the same access to credit that many have enjoyed for so long. Our goal here is to help individual consumers, help people gain access to getting their first car, buying their first home, help them take power over their own credit and connect to their own financial well-being and help drive that in the future. That's what we're trying to do. Many organizations are really focused on how can they help the underserved community? What can they do? Well, this gives them the exact tools they need to make a direct impact on helping communities that historically have not been supported in an equitable fashion. Leaving the world a better place. That's our goal. That's what we at Experian are in it for. We want to make the world a better place. Together, we can do that.
Join me in welcoming our very first guest, Chief Global Diversity Officer for Experian, my friend Wil Lewis. But the story wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about the other incredible partner that we have here today, just a dynamic group. Before I represent, let's go show that quick video.
Europe is a national nonprofit organization that works with low-income 18 to 24-year-olds, and in 1 year enables those young adults to go from low income to livable wages in the very best companies in this country.
Europe's mission is to close the opportunity divide. We believe that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not.
And we need to change that in order to maintain a strong, civil, democratic society.
We train and place over 5,000 young adults per year. That is but a drop in the bucket in the 5 million young adults who need and deserve economic opportunity in this country. Our most recent outcomes evaluation from PACE show that Europe graduates will earn 53% higher wages, far and away surpassing any other workforce development organization. We know what it takes to be successful here, and now we're working on figuring out how to scale it. These scalable and adaptable program models will leverage the best of Europe's IP, from curriculum through to training, evaluation, in order to increase the impact of what Europe is able to do today.
We have to think bigger. That's why we're most excited about the strategy we're now embarking on, which is to enable and empower others to serve opportunity youth across this country.
Yes. So with that, give me another round of applause, I guess, say, for our wonderful co-host here, Miss Aprill Hawkins. With you. Thank you. You guys are doing some incredible work. I literally have chill bumps when I think about what you're doing at Experian, the video that we just saw. That is dynamic. We should feel really, really good about the work. So with that, we're going to dive right in. So let me see. Will, I'm going to kick it off with you. Yes. So we got a chance to see a little bit about you, but tell us a little bit more about your role and the work that you do over at Experian.
You know, thank you so much for having me here, first of all, Jack. I'm thrilled to be here with you and to learn from you like I always do. And Europe and the work you all are doing is just absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm just in awe to be sitting here with two dynamic Black women. So thank you for having me. I have to tell you, at Experian, my role is really around how do we find opportunities for equity? How do we work to drive equity in the communities in which we all live, work, and thrive, hopefully? We want to actually create that environment where people can thrive. For us, one of the many ways that we can help individuals thrive is through giving them access to credit. Now, it's important to note, we don't give credit, but what we can do is teach you the skills you need, give you access to the resources you need to improve your credit. So when you go to a lender who actually does make that lending decision, that you're in a better place. You're one step ahead of the rest when giving yourself access. You know, and as you saw in the video that just played, really that access could be life-changing. It could be getting that car that allows you to get back and forth to work without having to pay exorbitant interest for it. It could be actually finding your way into an apartment, right? You want to move out of your parents' home if you are, and you need to get access to an apartment. Did you know your credit actually plays a role in that? One of the things that we do at Experian is really try and ensure that you're connected to products where you understand what your credit profile is, but then also have access to tools like Experian Go, for example, that allows you to start your own credit file for the very first time and build your Experian credit profile that ultimately will hopefully support you in getting access to those things that you need just to survive in today's climate.
Absolutely. And we know there is a lot that we need to survive in today's climate, which is why this conversation is so important and so incredibly timely. So thank you so much, Wil. All right, my friend, Miss April, you're up. Tell me a little bit more about you and a lot of the work that you all are doing, the important work I say you all do here at You're Up.
Yes, definitely. So I'm Aprill Hawkins. I am the director for Europe Chicago. We're a nationally scaled workforce development program that is providing the training as well as the access and opportunity for young people to help close the opportunity divide. So nationally, we have served over 36,000 young adults since our inception in 2000. We are in Chicago locally going to serve about 215 young adults this year. And so this piece of the conversation, when you talk about workforce development, this piece ties in hand in hand, because without that financial literacy, without the credit education, it doesn't matter how much you make if you can't manage it. I'm someone who made a lot of young, mistakes with money and credit and just not having the education and the understanding. And so it's really important to me that the work that we're doing in preparing these young adults for these opportunities includes financial and credit education. And so I'm just really excited to be having this conversation, especially with Experian. I get those alerts. There's been a change to your credit profile, so I get those alerts, and it's just been really important to me. I didn't really get a deep understanding of my credit personally until I was probably in my early 30s. And so for me, like, the earlier you get that start and the earlier that you have access to the information and that you understand how it affects everything, the better. So I'm really excited to be talking about, especially connecting with you and wealth management and credit. Those are some of the really key knowledge pieces that we want our young adults to leave with.
Absolutely. You just reminded me, I think about like that first credit journey I had as a young adult, and that very first, I think, Discover card or whatever I applied for. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of us did not have the tools that we have access to today. And so that's why it's so important. And most importantly, I feel extremely blessed that we're able to have platforms like this so that we can get to our young people sooner than later to really set them up on that right path. So let me come back to you, Mr. Wil. All right, represent Experian, one of the 3 largest credit bureaus out there in the land, but you all consider yourself the Consumers Bureau.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me what that means for people like me or people like those of us that we're here to serve. You're up in the audience that Experian is really serving.
Yeah, I'm going to make this really clear cut, really crystal.
Yeah.
We're here to help you.
Yes.
We're here to help you achieve your goals. We're here to help you achieve whatever it is you're trying to get access to at the end of the day. Now, how do we do that? That's the question. And we really try and make it really, really simple and really, really easy for the everyday American to be able to get access and to understand their journey. I'm going to make this sound way too simple, but it really is just as simple. Take out your phone. If you're listening to it right now, take out your phone, go to the App Store, go to the Google Play Store, and download the Experian app.
Yes.
If you download the Experian app, what it does on that app is you can create for free your own login and get access to some resources that help you along the way. There's tutorials that are in there to help you understand the things that you should be thinking about as you're thinking about maybe making purchases. You can model out how it will impact your credit score, but then it also gives you access to a couple of other things. If you don't have credit today, and I imagine some of you out there listening, they don't have credit yet today, right? If you don't have credit yet today and you're like, gosh, but I do pay this Netflix bill every month. I wonder if that counts. It could count. So when you download that app, there's something in there that'll take you to Experian Go. All within there, you can start building your own credit file right inside there about things you may not realize that you're doing today. But then it also helps out a couple of other groupings of folks. Let's say you already have credit. You know you have a credit file and maybe it's not as good as you need to be. You made some mistakes. It's okay. It's human. We make mistakes and we do things and you're like, how do I get this better? Well, in that same app, there's something called Experian Boost. Again, you can go in and you can bring in things that you're paying for, your positive payment history. You can bring into your credit file, your Experian credit file, potentially boosting your score and getting yourself a higher score, which then gives you greater access. Now, if that's not enough, because your question was, how do we allow people to get, how do we help, right? So those are a couple of ways around scores, but there's something new that we just came out with earlier this year. I personally think it's a game changer. So if you own a vehicle, you own a car, and if you own a car in some states, you're required to have auto insurance if you own that car. There's something out there called Experian Auto that compares insurance rates from different insurers. You type in a type of insurance you want, and it just kind of lists out for you the different options that you have and how much they'll cost. And then you can choose what's best for you. Once again, all within the same Experian ecosystem, you're able to take a look and decide what works best for you. You see, at the end of the day, this is around how do we help the person next door get access to things that will help make their financial lives better. That's what we're driving towards. It's helping you get access.
Absolutely. And that's so important as we think about, again, access to the things that we know allow us to live this beautiful American dream, right, of home ownership, of being able to own a car. And the other thing, I'm going to tie this over here to my next question with Aprill, the opportunity for career opportunities. As I think about it, especially to be in wealth management, which is the field that I'm in, your credit is ran quite often because naturally, because of what we do. We want to make sure that people in my industry are very well equipped to be able to give proper advice to our audience. And so, Aprill, the question for you is, as we think about our young people and career opportunities, why is it important for young people to understand credit, and why it's so incredibly important about knowing that in advance of a career opportunity?
I think that those pushes, those credit card offers, those things start early, right? As soon as you turn 18, they're like, hey, here you go, here's an offer. When I was in college, they would come to campus and give out back then calling cards and T-shirts. I'm aging myself with the calling cards, but they would incentivize. Yes, they would incentivize you to get those credit cards. And so for a lot of people who didn't have access to jobs or money, it was like, man, this is a quick, easy fix. And so that's why that education has to start early, because those pushes for getting involved start early. And so one of the things that, we make note of here at Europe, one of our tracks is financial operations, banking, consumer services. We have partnerships with a number of the large banks in the country. And so a lot of them will do credit checks, they'll do background checks. And so it's really, again, important for us to make sure that you all have that understanding of how does my credit affect my career opportunities. And so we are really intentional about providing that financial literacy education. So we partner with Bank of America, who has done some local financial literacy pieces for us in the past for our cohorts. We also have a student services team, amazing team, who does financial literacy one-on-one as soon as they come through the door to say, you'll get this stipend, but you also may be working a part-time job. Let's help you manage your budget. Let's help you understand what your expenses are, what your debt is, and how you can manage that. And so we also give them, we recognize the need for credit cards for a lot of people. So we will share information on, these are some great starter credit cards for young adults. These are the ones that'll kind of keep you out of trouble a little bit. And so I wish somebody had told me that one in my early 20s, but we really try to provide that education so that there is a foundation going forward for them.
That's really good. Yes, absolutely. Because, when we think about career opportunities, it could be the difference of your dream role or not, just because of your credit. So again, having this information early is very key. So Wil, coming back to you, what if we're one of those students that were on campus and some really, really bad actor, I call them bad actors, a bad person decided they wanted to steal my social security number and create some crazy fraud, or what we like to call identity theft. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's talk about what that really means as far as the impact that it can have on a consumer when someone basically steals their identity to try to go get credit in their name.
So identity theft is real, right? It happens. And let's just be honest. Sometimes it happens from that bad actor on campus. Occasionally it happens from your family member, or somebody, let's just keep it real, right? So when you find out that your identity has been stolen or someone has fraudulently used your social security number or other identifying information, what's important is that you contact all three of the major credit bureaus. Experian's one of them, but you want to contact the other two as well and report that to each one of us. Now, what's really good is at Experian, if you have the Experian app, one of the things you can do right now is go in and lock your credit file. So at Experian, by locking your credit file, what that means is no one can open up a new credit file on you without your explicit consent. You actually have to go in and unlock it to allow someone to actually run your credit or to open up a new line of credit on your behalf. It has one extra layer of protection to try and help support you and keep you out of trouble along the way. But if you are the victim of identity theft and you feel like someone's opened up credit in your name, contact all three of us and let us all know. There's an 800 number that for each one of us, we have one through the Experian app. If you're on there, there's a contact us place on there that'll bring you in touch with us. I will tell you, when you do call us, we're going to ask you some pretty strong questions because we want to be sure it really is you that's calling us. We want to be sure we verify your identity. We're going to ask you some things that we suspect only you will know. And then we're going to work with you to ensure that we block any additional things from happening and then give you some advice on what you need to do so we can be sure we shore it up along the way.
Yeah, that is key because, again, I think at some point, it's like almost there's some type of identity theft. I feel like everyone is going to end up getting something, whether it's an alert and it's not real or it's a full. And so having this, that particular resource is very key to making sure. Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing that this isn't necessarily something to do with Experian, but I think this is just a good consumer tip. I get it. As a matter of fact, just every morning I wake up and I swear I have 10 more emails. I have no idea how these folks got my email address. And they look similar to a legitimate source, right? What comes into my email box is I get something from Walmart every day, and I get something from somewhere else, but it's not really Walmart, right? And if you look at the email address, it says something someplace else, but they put Walmart in the name. And they're trying to trick me into entering some personal information about mine where they can try and then steal my identity. Be very, very wary of those random emails that come into your email box that are asking for information, like your passcode. Like sometimes they try and spoof a bank, right? Choose a major bank. They try and pretend like they're the bank and say, click this link and then enter your login information. If you enter that login information, it's possible that then they're getting access to your bank account. I never respond to any of those emails or things. And if I have any questions, I go to my own web browser separate from that email and type in the address for whatever store that is or whatever, just to double check it. Sometimes I'll call. And I want to give you a real specific example where someone was trying to steal my identity just a month ago. Trying to, but I work for Experian.
Didn't get too far, Shay. They didn't do their homework.
But they sent me. It was from one of the big banks, right? And so I got a note saying, you tried to make this purchase from the big bank. Log into your account click this link, and then log into your account. And I was like, I haven't tried to make any purchases with that card, first of all. But second of all, the bank never, ever, ever tells me to click a link and then go log in. They say go to our site and then log in. And so, but just to be double sure, I picked up the phone and I called the bank. But a number, not the number they gave me in that email. That's probably a fake number too. I went, looked at the back of my card and got the number off the back of my card and called the bank and said, hey, I got this alert. Is this real? And the bank said, no, that's not real. Delete that email. Don't do what they're saying. The scammers are trying to get at you every kind of way. You have to be able to look on the lookout all the time.
That is so critical, especially in times that we're experiencing where people are potentially choosing between food and fuel. You just never know, who's out here, the bad actors, the people who are just really trying to really not do the right thing. These are incredible tips that we need to make sure. Don't click on links, those little text messages that come. You ever get those little crazy text messages, click here? No. So again, best practice, call the number on the card, go to the actual website, deal with them directly, because all of that could be opening up exposure to your credit profile, which is not something that you want to have to go down. No, thank you so much for those best practices. Woo! All right. Miss Aprill, let me jump back over to you. You mentioned some incredible corporate partners, obviously, that you worked with in the past. And so, as you think about those corporate partners or your advisory board at Europe, you mentioned there's some things that you all do out the gate to help make sure they know how to budget. But what are some other things that you're doing to make sure that these young people, like right before they get to that first, that they have access to things like this on a regular basis?
So I think conversations like these are extremely important. Again, I did not have readily available access to credit information. I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And so it's really intentional for us to partner with organizations, companies that are going to be just as intentional about helping our young adults avoid some of these traps, but also make sure that they understand like what it means to make a livable wage and keep them from, being in a spot where they have to make some harder decisions financially. And so when we look at, our Banks of America, our internal teams that really work to say, like, how can we make sure that going into this internship, they understand budgeting, they understand credit cards, they understand the importance of that. I think that that's something that will continue to play out in our curriculum. There are always going to be ways where we look to see, like, how can we enhance this? And so something I would really love to do locally in Chicago is to continue pushing these initiatives towards our alumni to make sure that even though they've graduated from Europe, you never get rid of Europe. Europe stays with you. So how can we continue to use our partnerships, leverage those relationships to say, okay, we might have an alum who's 5 or 10 years out, how can we ensure that they're still on the right track and that they understand how their credit affects their, career as well as just their quality of life generally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just having a conversation with a dear friend today, and one of our conversations was about finding your freedom. So we were talking about what that ultimately means down the road, right on the other side, if you will. And so having those good best practices out the gate at 18, my gosh, it's setting them up for true success. So good stuff. So let's do a little education lesson here, Mr. Wil. Yeah. So let's have some fun.
Where's the professor hat?
Yes. We need your hats. It's graduation season. Credit score.
Yes.
What is a credit score? Tell us what that means and why it's so important.
Yeah. So a credit score is a representation of your payment history. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is at the end of the day. And so some lenders or people that are using lenders, apartment building owners, home, people that are looking to give you a loan for your home or your auto or whatever it is, they make decisions. And in some cases, even when you apply to jobs, sometimes those potential employers, depending on what the job is, you mentioned what you do requires a lot of credit checks. They take a look at that and they use that to inform their decision-making process over whether they think you are credit worthy or not. And so at Experian, what we do is we simply furnish them the data and the information once you give your consent to be able to tell them, hey, here's where this person falls. Then that lender makes a decision on whether they're going to give you that loan or not. Now, here's where it becomes really important to each one of you. What's really important is that you're monitoring your spending behavior, because your spending behavior will directly affect how high or how low your credit score is. And credit takes time to build. There are a couple of different aspects to credit. It's a complex algorithm, but I will tell you, it's the length of your credit history. How long have you had your longest open account? It's also taking a look at your payment history. Do you pay on time every month for whatever it is your payment history has as well along the way? And what's your debt to credit ratio? Like how many open accounts do you have? And how much money do you owe debt to income ratio based on how much money you actually make and earn? Those are some of the factors that kind of help bring together your credit score. And then with that number, a lender then gets that data once you give us permission to give it to them. And they make a decision on that auto loan that you apply for. Now, one of the things that people sometimes don't realize, when you go in and you're looking for your first apartment, you're real excited. You're going in, you see this lovely high-rise building and the rent's $2,500 a month. And you're like, oh, but I make $2,600 a month in salary, so I can afford the $2,500 a month rent. Because you forgot about you have to be able to furnish that place, you have to eat, you have to pay for car fare to get back and work, all those things. Well, but you go in and you fill out the application. Let's be realistic. Let's call it an $800 a month apartment. You go in and you fill out the application for that apartment. And at the application, they give you a disclosure that says, we need to run a credit check on you. Do you give us permission to run the credit check? When you sign that form, either electronically or on a piece of paper, they then share that with us and say, this consumer, this person has given us permission to get their credit. We then give them the credit information as you told us it was okay to do. And then they use it to make a decision. Now, if you've been looking after your credit and you've been ahead of the curve and on the Experian app and managing your credit along the way, chances are you're in pretty good shape. You know what's going to turn up already, so you know whether you're going to make it or not, and you're in good shape. The people that are surprised are the ones that haven't been monitoring some time. And they said, oh, well, I didn't pay it that month. I'll catch up 3-4 months from now. Well, every time you skip a payment, that shows up and it brings down your score. And it takes a long time to work your way back up that score. We want you to be responsible out of the gate. That's why we want to start at 18. 18 is the age in the U.S. where people are able to start building credit. And if you're going to build credit, and if you decide you're ready, we want to be sure you have the skills and the tools to make it all the way. It's important. It's life-changing.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, the difference between maybe a 500 credit score and maybe an 800 credit score could be hundreds, right?
Hundreds. It could be. And I like to think of it as it could be hundreds of dollars a month. Yeah. It could also be many percent, right? So I've gone with friends to look at cars over time, and it could be the difference in a 4% interest rate on that car or 21% interest rate on that car. So calculate that out depending on how much the car costs.
Right.
How that's going to hit
so
you.
So two friends can walk out with the same car, but your payment's $200 and mine is $1,000.
Right, it could be, right? It could be. It's certainly could be more.
All right, that is, yeah. So that's another thing. So not only, is it the opportunity to get a job or not, to get approved or not, but it could wipe out or reduce your ability to save more, invest more, build wealth, because now, because of those bad practices, it's now costing us more for that same car. If you had good practices, you get to keep that extra inflow.
That's exactly it. And that's why one of the things I recommend to everyone, if you do nothing else, is within the Experian app, model out, if you make it a purchase, what it potentially could do. And you can do that inside the Experian app without charge, actually. So and you can go in there, you can just say, gosh, I really want to buy X. And you can put in there, I want to rent an apartment. And if I rent this apartment, that's X amount of dollars a month, what will that do to my credit score? And the system will tell you potentially what your credit score will do, either go up or down or stay flat. I think that modeling is really, really helpful.
That's very helpful. And it actually ties me back to my next question here to Ms.
I needed that.
I know, right? Right. And so, so to that point, how can we make sure that as part of our assignment, right, as leaders and mentors and advisors to our young people, that they are getting access to this kind of credit education on a regular basis, because we know how important it is to the wealth and the health of their financial futures.
Yep. So, I'll back up for a second. We know that generally in the majority of the age group we serve, 18 to 25, your long-term thinking hasn't really kicked in yet. And so sometimes you can end up making decisions that affect you in the long term that you just don't really cognitively understand yet. And so one of the things I have two brothers. They are both 24. And so I'm significantly older than them. So it's like, you don't have to make all the mistakes yourself, like learn from other people's. And so the one thing that I think is so important for leaders and mentors is to share your story and to say, what are the mistakes that you made? I know when I was 23, 24, I would see people who, were older, they were successful. I'm like, oh, they got it all together. And I think what would have been great for me to hear is like, no, I didn't have it all together. I may, it may be better now, but I didn't have that all together at 23, 24. I was not making a lot of money. I incurred a lot of credit card debt. And then I learned that, okay, this is how you climb out. This is how you monitor. I've gone through the identity theft where that's why I get those alerts now, because it's just like, I've had that happen where it's like somebody's trying to buy a car with my credit. And so I think it's so important to share those stories and for you all to understand the the psychology behind spending and why you spend and how you spend is so important, because that determines your longer term behaviors. If you're an emotional spender, if you have a bad day and you're like, man, I'm gonna go buy some shoes. That's cool. Can you afford those shoes? Are those shoes going to put you in debt? Are you going to be paying for those shoes for the next 2 years because of your interest rate? Because you have a 29% interest rate on a credit card. And so I think it's just really, it's really critical for you all to understand that even some of the most successful people you see have likely made money mistakes. Maybe not huge ones, but they've done little things where they've had to learn and say, okay, I need like a card where I got a limit and I can't spend over that limit and I got to pay it off, and it's we have such a stigma around talking about money and credit, because there can be shame attached to that, right? Like there can be shame attached to whether you make enough money. And so that's how that spending comes into play. And so really wanting to encourage people to step outside of like that leadership role and kind of that space where you feel like you got to present the, like, I got it all together and I know everything, and to be able to say like, hey, this is a mistake I made at 25 that I paid for up until I was 31, and this is how you can avoid doing the same thing. And to Will's point, there is so much, man, if I had something where I could go in and put in, what is this $1,200 apartment that I really can't afford gonna do? Because it dominoes, right? Like I get the $1,200 apartment and I can technically pay my rent, but then I can't pay other things, and then I can't go out and kick it. And so
that's important.
I'm gonna use my credit card to go out and kick it, and so now I'm putting $200 a month worth of like drinks and movies and so I just think it's really important to understand that domino effect. So a tool where you can actually go in and see how something is going to influence your score before you even do it. Man, I'd have a whole different financial life right now if I had that at 23. So really use what you have available. Ask people questions, ask people what they're comfortable sharing about their credit journey or their financial journey, and they might be like, I don't talk about that, but it doesn't hurt to ask the questions. But I think it's our job to make sure that we're presenting that information.
We have to be bold enough to share our stories. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Even those of us here on the panel that may have made a few money mistakes, I raise my hand. Yes. That's part of the testimony, as they say.
Yes,
that's why we're up here sharing our lessons with you all.
Yes.
So, no, thank you for that. And I think, again, as we think about the credit journey as young adults, Will, I really want you to just talk about, there's some incredible things that Experian is doing as you think about Boost, as you think about Go, and just like you said, back in our day, I didn't have like the downloadable apps. I had to actually go to sit in work credit building workshops, for 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon just to learn this information that we can download in seconds today. So it's available. There's access is available, inclusion is available. So there's no excuse, right? It's just now making sure we have things like this that put it on a platform to get it out to our audience. So tell us more about Boost and Go. And you touched on it a little bit earlier. Is there any more you want to share about why this tool is so incredibly important and what you're expecting as a result of the work that this tool is going to do to help conquer the world?
And conquer the world.
Hey, we conquer the world with this tool.
So there's a couple of things. So there's probably someone out there listening and they're like, you know what? An app is just not for me. I need someone to talk to me and help me understand what's going on. And if that's you, that's okay. We also have webinars that actually help people get connected as well. You go to Experian.com/diversity. On the page, it tells you all the places where whether it's virtual or in person, where we're going to be speaking about just this. Right, so for many people, a webinar is even better, right? They can sit in their house, they can listen to someone, they can send a question or two in and get that immediate feedback. We offer that on a regular basis as well, and anyone can join, right? So if that's you, and you kind of need that live time feedback with another human on the other end, leverage that. Now, there are a couple of other things that you mentioned as well that I think really gives access. The first one is, I don't have credit. I've never had a credit card, and I don't think I have credit. Occasionally, people are surprised they found out they actually do have credit because there was a bad actor involved, But let's hope that that's the case. And if that's the case for you, within the app, you can go to Experian.com/go. But the app is the fastest way. Everything's in one place. And what you can do is you can pull in less than 5 minutes different parts of you. It's really simple. What it does is it asks you to verify your identity. You have to do that with some kind of official government ID in the U.S. here to do that. And then within the app, it'll then ask you a couple of other identifying pieces of information. And then it'll say, hey, are you paying anything at all right now? And that's where, if you're paying your cell phone bill, if you're paying your Netflix bill, those things may not be going on your credit profile for you now. You can bring those in, and that in itself establishes your credit file. That could be the beginning of your credit journey right there. Now, once you get that done, right? I have a credit file now, but gosh, the score is lower than I thought it was going to be. It came out to be 630, and I thought it should have been 675. Well, then there's something called Boost, which brings in even more things, positive payment history, into your credit profile. So you're getting credit for all the things that you're paying on time. That's our goal. Give you credit for what you're doing. Allow you to build your own credit file and then get credit for the things that you're positively paying every day. That's the missing link. That's what we want you to have access to. That's called Experian Boost. That brings each one of you in to be able to get that access and to be able to see your score real time. This isn't something that happens, 5 years from now. Real time, you'll be able to see whether your score gets boosted or not right then and there. Thus increasing that access, potentially meeting a threshold for some lenders where you can get that lower interest rate and be able to qualify for a different apartment that you didn't think you would qualify before as well. Now, while you're in there with Experian Go and Boost, remember, if you have a car, it's also a good time for you to check out auto, right? What you can do is go in and say, hey, I want liability only insurance, or I want comprehensive insurance, or you can choose your limits. Usually, the same thing that you have to call up an agent, you spend an hour on the phone going through as they try to sell you life insurance and everything else as well. Sorry to my brother-in-law, who I know. But what it does, you enter what your needs are, and then it gives you different options for under auto as well, where you can choose from different auto insurance companies, and you can choose exactly what you want and choose which payment works best for your budget. It's all live, real time right there. And you can find access to that via the app as well. There's a button in there to click it, and it'll take you out to a web interface that lets you go ahead and explore it. And the good thing is, if you have a car right now, you don't have to commit to changing. You can just go and poke around and see what it could be. So when your auto insurance comes up for renewal, you may think that's something you want to go back and take a look at now. I think it never hurts to take a look, find out what your options are.
That's right.
Okay? And I think that's my encouragement to everybody. Even if you're saying, I don't know, I don't think I want to take this leap, I don't think I want to do Go, I don't think I want to do Boost. First, I was saying, why not? But putting that aside, go check it out at least, right? You don't have to do anything. You can just go educate yourself. Education is key to this all here. Educate yourself, be informed, and then you can make an informed decision around what's right for you.
That's right. And what you said is so incredibly important, especially, again, I think about just how incredibly honored we are, like in today's world, to be able to have all this access, that was not really available years ago. To be able to know I can boost my score, by using things that weren't available before, that could really be the difference between a lower payment or getting me approved or making my credit profile stellar enough to get that job. Those are the things that are now available. And so that's why having conversations like this is incredibly key, so that you are equipped with what you need in order to move successfully into your financial future, right? So I love it. Yes. So I'm going to wrap up with our final question. It's always like the advice. This is where that wisdom comes in. Oh yeah, we get it all. We all going to give them a little piece. They going to get a little piece of this wisdom up here on this panel. So you said there were some things you wish you would have, could have, should have. Yes. But if you were going to give your most powerful piece of advice based on what you just even learned in these last 30 minutes or so, tell us what that would be. I know, right? It's a loaded question.
I think that if there were things that I wish I had known then, which, coming to a really good place, it's like maybe I needed to make those mistakes. But it's like everybody doesn't need to make those mistakes, and everybody can't afford to make certain mistakes. And so educate yourself, know yourself in relation to credit and money and how you move with both of those things. Lose the shame. I think that there's so much shame and stigma around talking about money, around talking about credit. And I think it impedes so much. You know, I think if I had sat around and had credit conversations with my mom had a perfect credit score. She showed me, but she didn't show me. She was just like, this how, you know, and it was, you know, it took her a long time to do that, but I wish I had watched her more closely. So, you know, I think we always talk about having a professional mentor, an academic mentor. A money mentor is, should be on that list too. You know, somebody that you trust, that you can talk to and have like those really honest conversations. To say like, hey, I'm really trying to get here. And we, at Europe, we do some of those. We talk about like salary negotiation. We talk about those really sticky, uncomfortable things where it's just like, how do I ask for more money? And so having, and even this conversation is just really giving me like a lot of like, what can we do more of here? Like, how do we have more of that conversation with you all so that it's not just this one seminar or one session or, how do we make this a rolling conversation so that there can be questions asked? Because I think there are so many, when I was 25, I didn't know what APR meant. I didn't know that, my credit card interest rate, that emergency dinner that I went to because I had a rough day was going to be, I was going to be paying for that. Emergency drinks. That's what I called them. I was like, it was an emergency. So really it would just be like kind of lose the shame, lose the stigma, be willing to ask the questions, find a money mentor, find someone that you trust who you believe does well with money or who does well and is able to share that information and that knowledge with you. And then the last thing I would say is just to be mindful. I try not to use terms like be smart because stuff happens, right? Like we are living in, the world is a dumpster fire right now. It's like some days you just got to go out and like take a load off. And so be mindful of how you spend money. And again, it's going back to that knowing yourself and knowing your relationship to money and credit and how that's going to impact your life. And just reading, there's so much information out there about credit, about how to build a life. When you talked about like freedom, accessing freedom, what does financial freedom look like for you? Determining that and then making sure those decisions that you're making are moving you towards that. And so plenty of other advice I could give, but really it's just like making this more of a conversation and less of kind of a behind the curtain thing that you kind of have to learn the hard way.
That was good.
That was good.
Yes, I mean, I'm Will. You can come in.
She nailed it. We're done.
Everyone's got their lesson. We're good. Yeah. So, what do you think? Anything that you want to add? That was really, really good. But I know there's so much around this topic of credit that it's always something to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things I would say. The first one is, don't feel as if you have to take that offer when it's on the table in front of you, right? When you're walking through wherever you are, the gym, the cafeteria at school, wherever it is, and that person's standing there with the credit card smiling, saying, hey, fill this out, and I'll give you, you'll get an immediate $1,200 credit limit. It may be true, you will, but there's two things I'll tell you. That person's commission of how many applications they get people to fill out that day. So they're feeding themselves and lining their pockets, and you about to put yourself in the debt. You're outside the cafeteria, which means you probably have access to food already. Do you really need that credit card for $1,200?
No emergency dinners?
Right, no emergency dinners, right? So be sure that you're really being thoughtful around what that is. Or if you feel like, this is a really good deal, know that person's going to be there for a while. Go to the cafeteria table, download the Experian app, and model out, if you do this, what the impact will be to your credit score. And think about, gosh, I know at the end of this term, or I know because of whatever's going on at home, I'm going to have to get an apartment soon. If I get this credit card, it may push me out of the threshold. And by the way, life happens, right? So you may know that you need to get an apartment because things aren't going well at home. Or you may need to get an apartment because the semester is about to end. Or you may need to get an apartment because your lease is up, or where you are right now, right? Or something else. But if you get that credit card, all of a sudden you won't be able to qualify for the unit you really want. That's the impact that could have from getting that one credit card with the $200 limit that somebody's about to go and meet their commission, but you are on it. So one piece of advice is you don't have to take the offer when it's on the table in front of you. That's the first thing. The second thing is use the tools that are at your disposal, right? Welcome the advice, welcome the input. I think forget the shame or leave the shame behind is a really great one, right? Some families you don't, my family being one of them when I was growing up, we didn't really talk about money or whatever. It was just that we don't have enough money. We can't afford that. That was a conversation. But we never understood why or what was going on. Have a discussion, right? Make it okay to talk to the people that you love or that you care about or that care about you in your life and see if you can learn from along the way. Some of my most amazing money lessons came from a guy on the L or on the subway here in Chicago, and I used to see him every day going back where we would always get on about the same time. And so I would see him most days of the week. And we would talk about money, we'd talk about politics, we'd talk about all kind of things. And he was I was 22, 23 at the time. He retired, during that commuting period. But I listened to him. And there are lessons that he taught me about money. And this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with. You don't have to spend it because you have it.
Uh-oh. that's a round of applause.
Live below your means.
Because sometimes that money comes into your wallet, into your pocketbook, and you're like, oh my goodness, I got to go get that new pair of shoes, and I'm about to, look, it's on me, y'all. We all going out tonight. We about to live it up. But when you do that, then you're struggling for the rest of the month. You don't need to spend it because you have it. Save some away, and that's why it's so important. I have people in my own family right now that are like, "Oh, you got it. You can afford that." Like, first of all, get out my pocket.
Tell them.
but secondly, if I have it, it's because I didn't spend it, over there, and who knows what's going to happen, right? And so you want to have that emergency fund, and I know there's someone out there that's listening to me right now that's like, look, I'm barely making it. I have to spend everything that I have just to be able to keep my head above water, and I get it. I've been there, and I respect that. That also means, though, that we sometimes have to make decisions about things that we have to forego that we really don't want to do. Right? We can't go out and party tonight because I know that I'm struggling to kind of stay here. I've had to make those decisions in my lifetime myself. So sometimes saying no to kicking it with your friends is what you have to do. Don't go to that kickback, stay at home.
Don't do it. No, that is really, really good. And I would say, I shared this actually a couple of weeks ago when we were together. One of my pieces of advice is I tell young people, give, save, spend to win, win, win. Yeah. In that order. Meaning you give, save first. If you do that, the first two will always take care of you. All right? So if you're constantly telling yourself for every dollar that comes in, before I even spend a dime, I'm going to put maybe a dime away into my savings, a dime away to my giving or my philanthropy, and I'm going to live off the 80 cents. And maybe if I'm a little bit more aggressive, I might save a little bit more, live off of 70 cents out of every dollar that comes in. But if you can adopt the mentality that says, I'm going to give and save first before I spend, guess what happens? This almost becomes like a little seed. It's almost like you're planting it. And if you do that enough, what happens to seeds when you plant them? And you fertilize them, and you water them, and you take care of them, it grows. So guess what happens if the spending dries up, right? If you've got harvest over here, right? It's there to take care of you. So that's why, we have to be smart about money and about credit, right? Credit's not bad. Don't let people tell you that it's bad. It's how you manage it. Right? It's a matter of, and we talked about this when we first met, right? It's like, let's not get this, no, can't do a credit card. Well, yeah, if you're crazy, you're going out and buying $400 of bottles of wine just because with no intention to pay it back and pay 28% interest on it, go for it. That's not smart. But if you're wise, it can be an incredible opportunity to leverage that to help you get to the next level, see some of your financial goals and dreams come true, and still have the opportunity to build wealth and have an incredible life of financial freedom. So that's why having conversations like this, making sure you take the time, I call it do your financial hygiene. Just like you go to your doctors every year, every 6 months, you need to be sitting down. How often do we recommend reviewing our credit scores? I remember it used to be annually, maybe it's a little bit bit more now. But ideally having that set up in your calendar where once a quarter, twice a year, all right, let's take the time, review the credit score, review all of my debt, review my savings, and make sure that I'm on the right journey to success. So that is where I will leave it with a little bit of advice. And just finally, a call to action. What do we want our people to do here today, y'all? April, let me start with you. And what do we need people to do? What's the action item that they need to walk out here and do? Tell that.
Share this conversation with a friend, you know? We'll send out the video, but even just talking about it, like, hey, I went to this conversation on credit, learned, X, Y, Z. There's this app I learned about that, you can download and use as a tool to help you. But that for me is, that's the win there. When you can go out and tell somebody else, when you can take the information and use it and then share it with somebody else. That's how we spread, the knowledge and share what we've learned.
All right, spread it out. Will, what's the call to action?
Go check your credit report. It's free.
Okay. That's right. Check it is free, no cost at all. And this is your report. So don't you want to know your report?
Yes.
Go check it. All right. And then my call to action is make sure, just as a reminder, download Experian, the app. That should be one of those standing apps that's on the phone, young people. That's your credit score. Make sure that you are watching that, leveraging that tool. I'm sure you guys are doing multiple enhancements throughout there. It's only getting better. And so please make sure that that's part of your journey, because it's going to only do nothing but set you up for success. So thank you so much. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Experian. Thank you, You're Up, for hosting us here in Chicago. Thank you to our audience. And on behalf of myself, again, Jacqueline Campbell, President and CEO of Alexander Legacy Private Wealth and the host of Legacy Lessons, I thank you for being with us. Again, we truly hope that you got something out of today's conversation that will take you to your next level in your credit journey. In about 20 years from now, when y'all over there doing big things, just don't forget about the little how to get there. All right, so thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed today's conversation.
Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Carson Partners, a division of CWM LLC, is a nationwide partnership of advisors. The opinions voiced in Legacy Lessons with Jack Campbell are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on the show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.